Hello, my name is Olurotimi Osha. Today is August the 18th, 2026, and I want to quickly provide five important rights that all persons in America enjoy. All persons in America. So, um, First of all, let me give the disclaimer. I'm not your lawyer, right? And I'm not licensed to practice law in the state of Maryland or any state in America. However, I do hold a Juris Doctor from George Washington University Law School in Washington, D.C. Juris Doctor is Latin for Doctor of Law, and I did international human rights law at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. And of course, I was an intellectual property law fellow at Bocconi University, where I also did international criminal law. Bocconi University is in Italy. So the reason why I'm doing this is I think all Americans and all persons in America should know that America is a nation of laws. We have the rule of law. Nobody is above the law, not even the government in the United States, not police officers, and you have rights. Now, I said all persons in the United States and not just American citizens or permanent residents. That's lawful permanent residents or green card holders, but all persons in the United States. The Supreme Court, in a court case, Zawidas versus Davis in 2001, said the due process, the Bill of Rights, the protections that guarantee due process, equal protection of the laws, they're applicable to all persons in the U.S., including non-citizens and even people who are in deportation. They're in deportation proceedings or their deportation is pending. So that's Zawidas versus Davis 2001 case. So it's very important that we know our rights in America, because again, our nation is governed by laws. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So these five rights that I want to just quickly delineate or describe that you have, that all persons in America have, they are enshrined in our Constitution, in the amendments which are called the Bill of Rights. That's the 10 amendments. And then the 14th is not part of the Bill of Rights, but the 14th is a very important law. So very quick, I want to try and keep this video under 10 minutes. And I'm going to give you, first of all, the Fourth Amendment. It protects you from unreasonable search and seizure. If the police don't have probable cause, if you're in your home, if you're protected in your home from unreasonable search and seizure. The police, if they don't have a warrant, whether it's an arrest warrant or a search warrant, and they're your home, anything they take from your home is inadmissible in court. That means they can't use it as evidence against you in court. And if the police comes to your house, if they don't have a warrant, right, you don't have to let them in. If they don't have a warrant, you don't have to let them in. Sometimes they can inveigle you. That means they can deceive you, right? And then you are consenting to them. You're giving your consent. You're letting them come in. If they don't have a warrant, you don't have to do that. Otherwise, if you're deemed to have given consent, then that's up to you. But importantly, the Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable search and seizure, from the government, from the police, from law enforcement. Anything they take from your home without a warrant is inadmissible in court. Unreasonable search and seizure, people use it synonymously as illegal search and seizure, right? It protects you from illegal search and seizure in your home, right? So the Fifth Amendment, that's the next one. The Fifth Amendment, that's your right to remain silent, right? Your right not to self-incriminate, right? Your right not to self-incriminate, your right to remain silent before the police, before law enforcement. You don't have to say anything. Also, it protects you against double jeopardy. I'll do a video discussing double jeopardy. That's after there's been a trial and you've been acquitted. They can't recharge you again. They can't try that again once you've been found not guilty. So that protects you against double jeopardy. Also, it protects you from it gives you the right to a grand jury indictment for a felony offense, right? For an infamous crime. Typically that just means a felony, right? a federal felony. So you're entitled to a grand jury indictment. The grand jury, that just means a group of people, it's very secretive. They've looked at the evidence, they found probable cause. So probable cause is very important. I've done a video discussing probable cause, but important thing about the Fifth Amendment again is your right to remain silent. You don't have to speak to anyone. Your right to have your Miranda rights read to you. Your Miranda rights means they tell you that, okay, you don't have to speak. You're entitled to a lawyer. You don't have to say anything. You can remain silent, right? So you have a right to an attorney. So now, Fifth Amendment is also a due process law. It protects you, guarantees your due process against the federal government, protects the government can't take away your life, your liberty, your property without due process of law. You have equal protection of laws against the federal government, not the state, right? So a federal government agent can be the FBI. The FBI is the federal government, not the state, right? The FBI, they're feds, they're federal government, or ICE. ICE is, ICE, they're feds, they're federal government agents as well. So the Fifth Amendment protects you against violations of your due process rights against the federal government, right? So in addition, there's the Sixth Amendment. The Sixth Amendment protects your rights to a fair and speedy trial, right? To a fair and speedy trial, and to a public trial, right? You're entitled to a public trial. So if the government is charged you with a crime, whether it's the state, so the state's government, for instance, if they charge you with a crime, then you're entitled to know your charges. You're entitled to a fair and speedy trial, a public trial. They can't take you somewhere secretly and try and convict you. No, you're entitled to a fair trial, a public trial, and a speedy trial. It's got to be fast. And then you're entitled to a jury, right? A jury of your peers. So you get to select who makes that decision, to be the trier of facts, right? They're triers of facts, the jury. And you're entitled, if you're indigent and they've charged you with a crime, you're entitled to a free attorney, right? An attorney paid for by the state. If you can't afford a lawyer, the government has to provide you an attorney, counsel to represent you. That's your constitutional right. It's an absolute right to counsel, assistance of counsel. The government has to pay for one. If you don't have money, if you can't afford a lawyer and they've charged you with a crime. And also the government also so Sixth Amendment packs a lot of things, right? The government also has to have a means to subpoena witnesses on your behalf, right? If somebody, because if they charge you with a crime, they're witnesses against you, you have a right to confront those witnesses who've accused you, your accusers, and to cross-examine them, to impeach their credibility, to say, that they're lying or they have some kind of bias. That's your constitutional right. That's protected by your Sixth Amendment, right? And the government has a way to be able to subpoena these witnesses, right? And witnesses on your behalf to come and testify on your behalf, and for you to also cross-examine your accusers, right? So that's a Sixth Amendment, right? So those are rights of the accused in case somebody accuses you of something. Then we have the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, that's also, it packs a lot of things. But in terms of your rights, your protections against the police, the 14th Amendment protects you, gives you due process of the law, freedom, so it protects you. The government can't take away your life, your liberty, or your property without due process of the law, right? So that's a due process of the law. 14th Amendment is similar to the Fifth Amendment. Just know that the Fifth Amendment's due process laws applies to the federal government, to the FBI, or to ICE, to the federal government. Fifth Amendment. But the 14th Amendment applies to the states, because the states have their own constitution, their own police, and things like that as well. So the state and the federal government, they're two different things in the United States, right? So the 14th Amendment protects your due process rights against state agents, right? State police, county police, right? They have to give you due process of law. And then equal protection of law. They can't target you specifically. They can't, just single you out, try and target you. They have to provide those rights, those laws, those protections, and they provide their citizens as well. So that's the 14th Amendment. And then the First Amendment, think of SAP. That's your freedom of speech, assembly, and you know, right to petition the government for a redress of your grievances, right? The right to file a complaint, to petition the government. You know, you can file a complaint. Something's gone wrong. A police officer did something wrong. You will have a right to petition the government, file a complaint against that person. So think of the acronym SAP if you want to remember it. Speech, S for speech, A is for assembly, and P is for petition. Now, those three things, right? Freedom of speech, assembly, and right to petition the government, SAP. Those three things, the corollary right that it results in is your freedom of association. So you have a right to associate with whomever you want to. You can associate with people from your own country. If you're originally from Nigeria, you're free to associate with Nigerians. The government can't prevent you from associating with people from Nigeria or people who are like-minded, who share a similar religion. If you're Muslim, you can gather with people that are Muslims as well. It's not a crime, right? So you have your freedom of association protected in the First Amendment, right? By the way, religion is also protected in the First Amendment. So there are several elements, several clauses to each one of these amendments that I've discussed. I have videos discussing them, but I thought I should just do a nice summary of fundamental rights that you have that protect your rights as persons living in America, and it applies to non-citizens as well. So you have a freedom to practice your religion. The government can't force you to practice any religion, right? You have a freedom to or your freedom of beliefs and your thoughts and your conscience, right? That's all part of the First Amendment. So I hope this helps you. And America is a great place to live in. We're a nation of laws. The rule of law means that even the government is subject to the law. The government can't infringe on those rights that I've just listed. My name is Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.